You're looking at the Nokia 8. This is the Finnish company's comeback attempt because this is its first flagship device in more than 3 years. So you're looking at the back, it's very beautiful. It's a metal device with dual cameras and curved size, so it fits very nicely in the hand. But you look at the front, you will see that immediately these bezels are relatively large, especially compared to all the other 2017 flagship out there. So for example, this is the LG V30. The two phones are almost exactly the same size, but obviously the LG device has a lot more screen. This is a 6-inch display versus a 5.3-inch display. So as a result, even though the Nokia 8, it's not a small phone to hold, the screen is actually pretty small and 5.3 inches. When I'm reading text, I notice that it's a bit smaller than I'm comfortable with because I've gotten used to devices like the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 or the LG V30, which has a much bigger display in a body that's similar size. But otherwise, the LCD panel on the Nokia 8, it's beautiful. The display gets very bright, 700 nits of brightness, so you can use this outside. Viewing angles are excellent. It's just too bad about the bezels. But moving past that, the rest of the phone, it's pretty good to great. You have a Snapdragon 835 chip inside, so it's really fast and powerful. If you look at Geekbench, this phone scored a 6132 in multi-core and a 1920 single core. That's very powerful, definitely on par with the best phones out there. The 3090 milliamp battery is more than enough to power this phone through a whole day, probably because the display is a little bit small, and also because this phone runs complete stock Android. Nokia says that it doesn't want to interfere with Google's software because Google's software is so good, so Nokia sees no point in putting a skin over it the way LG and Samsung and Huawei does. So this phone, as you can see, runs completely stock Android, and it's very, very fast, very, very smooth. So now let's talk about that camera. There's the two cameras on the back are 13 megapixels. One is a RGB, which is a color lens, and the other it's a monochrome lens. So it's the same setup as Huawei's Mate and P series with the one black and white, one color lens to combine to take in more light. The selfie camera, it's also 13 megapixel. So one of the things Nokia really played up with this phone is it's this mode called bothie, which means you use the front and the back camera at the same time to take one photo. So this is the result. You see, to be honest, it's a little bit gimmicky, and phones like LG have offered that since 2014. But you look past the gimmicks, and the Nokia 8's camera is actually pretty good. So you're looking at photo samples. It's quite good, but not the best. It can't compare to photos produced by a Galaxy Note 8 or an LG V30 or the new iPhone. The phone only has a f2.0 aperture, so it struggles a little bit in low light, and it's very slow to focus. But other than that, when you get a shot in good lighting and you get it to focus on time, shots produced can be beautiful. So unfortunately, the camera software is very complicated. So for example, you have an icon to switch between lenses. So if you want to take photo in mono lens, black and white, you can tap that. But now, unfortunately, this only works when you're in photo mode. So if you're in video mode and you want to record a video in black and white, there is no option for you to jump to the mono lens. You have to go back to the camera setting, tap the icon, go to mono, and then from here hit the video tab again to get that black and white lens. So otherwise, because the Nokia 8 runs pure stock Android, there are no gimmicks at all. So you see everything is very clean. You do get the Google Now card when you swipe to the right, but otherwise that's it. There is no double tap the screen to put it to sleep, no double tap to wake. You can't draw a gesture to turn on flashlight. All the stuff that you might be used to from an LG or Xiaomi devices, you cannot do here. This is just a very plain phone that just works. The Google software, because it's so clean, is super fast. So this is one of the fastest phones out there, and it feels very nice, and the camera is solid. But ultimately, the Nokia 8, it's a phone that's very good, but not great. And it doesn't stand out in any way. We are now at a time when every phone looks either very stunning with a bezel-less curved display, or something like an LG V30 with a hi-fi audio DAC in there that can pump out audiophile music, or a bunch of controls in video shooting mode. So You look at the Nokia 8 and you can't help but conclude that this is a slightly boring phone, but this is a phone that just works.